Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So after I watched the first Rocky movie, I wasn't sure if I was gonna watch the others. I just finished Rocky 2, like a few minutes ago. I think I am gonna watch the third one. I didn't realize actually until I was scrolling through Netflix that there's like six of these. And unfortunately, as I was scrolling through them, I did, the descriptions are there and the descriptions have spoilers, mostly about like character deaths and stuff. I mean, probably not like all of them, but I'm just like, damn, okay, thanks Netflix descriptions. I've heard the third one is supposed to be good. I'm gonna watch that one. I don't think I actually want to watch the entire series. But I think the first three are probably fun because I like these movies, but I also feel like I'm kind of ready to move on to like watching other stuff. But the second movie was good. I think I still like the first one better. But I could almost say after seeing both of them, they kind of feel like it's one movie split into two parts. Not just because the start of this one is not even like a recap of Rocky 1, but it's literally just the scene of like Rocky winning the fight from the first movie. It kind of does go on for a while. I mean, that is a pretty cool way to like start it and stuff. But it's like with the first one, he gets the chance to fight Apollo and he wins. And no, he doesn't win. I'm sorry. He doesn't win, and Apollo in this one wants to fight Rocky again. He like really, really wants a rematch. Because he doesn't think Rocky would be able to like actually beat him, and Rocky has to prove that the first fight, wasn't like a fluke or anything. So I feel like these two, and he does get to win with this one, which is really cool. So I feel like these two movies kind of go together in that sense. And I know that this one's like a sequel and stuff. I do feel like individually it is, if I'm like not judging it as a sequel, I do feel like it's a bit weaker than the first one. But like watching them, well, I didn't watch them directly like back to back. I almost did, and then I had to finish it the second one the next day. But I'd say they're probably good to like watch them back together, back to back. It's basically kind of like one storyline in a sense, which is the way this one continues, and Rocky, finally being able to beat Apollo, which I am glad the movie gives more time in this one to that final fight, because in the first movie, it wasn't really like a lot of time, and they go through those 15 rounds like really fast. With this one, the last like 24 minutes of the movie is the final fight, and it gets like really tense too. They like both of the characters participating in it treat it as a serious fight, so it's a really good one, honestly. I was kind of surprised it's like how fast and how slow time moves in this movie. And I know it's because it's a movie, that things got to move fast. It like makes things feel fast even though like in the universe of the movie it's really slow. It almost, cuz like with the first movie I was kind of following along easier because there was like holidays and it was the end of the year, of like how fast time was going and stuff, of like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the fight being on New Year's. I think they gave an actual date in this one where it was like January 1st, if I remember correctly. And then the second movie takes place in the next year. But there's like a lot of things that happen that like feel pretty fast in terms of like the movie's runtime. Like Rocky ends up, well, it starts with him in like the hospital, him and Apollo are recovering from their injuries, and Rocky gets out of the hospital and then goes to marry Adrian, and then later she gets pregnant and has a baby, and then later ends up in a coma, and then you finally get like the final fight, but it's after like all of this other stuff has happened. Like I'm assuming, with the pregnancy, that's it's 8 months, but I don't know how long Adrian's supposed to be in the coma. The movie makes it seem like it's like quite a while. And Rocky actually doesn't spend much time training. Like he's sort of training a little bit, but he's like worried about Adrian, and he waits until she's had the baby and is out of the coma to like really seriously start training. But I feel like you never really know how long, at least to me, like the training montages are. Which I do like the training montage in this movie actually. Like once Rocky finally gets serious towards the end, and I have some notes about that. But yeah, that was something I was kind of curious about with this movie. Of like, there's so many things that happen. Anyway, I want to talk about the marriage thing since I mentioned that. I thought his marriage to Adrian was kind of sweet. They go to the zoo. It's like right after Rocky gets out of the hospital, and there's all these people that like hound him about you should do like commercials and buy things because that's the other thing with this movie is like Rocky now has money and he's like having to deal with this like newfound fame, but he always has more of a focus on his family, and I think that's really sweet. Honestly, I liked a lot of the scenes with him and Adrian. Like they go to the zoo, and I didn't even realize he was gonna propose or anything. They're like in front of a tiger exhibit. He doesn't have a ring. He just asks her like, "Hey, what are you gonna do the next 50 years?" And then asks her to marry him, and she says yes. Even jokingly invites the tiger to their wedding, and then it just cuts to their wedding. So that was really fast. That was kind of sweetie. Bridal style carries Adrian home after they get married, and they run into the people from the first movie. It's like a bunch of guys that were like singing in the middle of the street or something. I'd kind of forgotten about them, but that's kind of the nice thing with these movies so far is like you get to check up on all of these characters and stuff. I'd say this one, I think part of the reason I didn't really care for it as much as the first is like it has like a bit more drama that kind of feels a bit drawn out. And I get that it's like serious and it's important for the character. Mostly, of like Adrian being in the coma kind of goes on for a while. So it's like I get why it's there, but I was also kind of like, and then there's this kind of long section where Rocky he has to do all of, well, he doesn't have to. I think he chooses to like do all these commercials. They're like sponsorship things, and he's very like awkward with them. I think he ends up quitting. I kind of skipped through some of those parts to be honest. And then he's so excited to have money that he starts buying stuff. He buys a car and he buys a house. And I noticed that Adrian, which kind of seemed like on character, like Rocky's really excited to like buy a bunch of stuff, and Adrian doesn't really care about any of those things. Which I find kind of funny because this is like right after Adrian, like they get married, and Adrian tells Rocky of, oh, nothing will change, right? And then Rocky starts buying all this stuff and buys a house, and she's telling him like, hey, we might not have like the money for this and stuff, and it like works out and everything, and they end up with like a nice house. But yeah, he spends like a ton of money immediately. And then she ends up pregnant, and I like this conversation they have about the baby before the baby's born, when they're wondering if it'll be a boy or a girl, and both the parents are saying to each other about the other person of like, oh, I hope the baby ends up like you. And I thought that was really sweet, but they both kind of want their kids to be like better than them and stuff. Let's see. And then another thing with it too is Rocky is trying to get a job. I'm assuming it's also, because he spent like a bunch of money right away, so they don't really have any money. But then he doesn't have like the experience or like schooling, and all the characters he's trying to get a job from are telling him to go back to fighting. Because the thing is, like Rocky, it like takes him so long to eventually get to the training and to the fight. Because at first he doesn't want to do boxing anymore. He like retires immediately, like as soon as he's in the hospital, which I was kind of surprised by, to be honest. Especially because I remembered there's like a scene where he's talking to Mickey. Oh yeah, that was the other thing from my other review. I kept saying like the old man's name is Mickey. I feel like he's even more of an important character in this actually. Kind of grew on me a bit more, but I'll talk about him later. Where he spends the movie like trying to convince Rocky to like fight, but I remembered Yeah, I think it's the start of this one. Watch these movies so close together, they're kind of blurring in my head a little. Where he's telling Rocky to quit, and Rocky's like, I just got started and trying to get a career in this, and now you want me to quit? But he spends the movie trying to. I think it's like back when Rocky's retiring from boxing or something, and then he spends the rest of the movie trying to get Rocky to box, and he eventually does take it up again because Adrian, I guess, had like quit her job at the pet store, and she takes it up again, and Rocky, wants to be the one to like provide and stuff, and Adrian's like, we just don't have money, and I want to help too and stuff. But it was kind of nice to see Rocky back at the pet store, kind of like in the first movie where, he goes there to visit Adrian while she's working, but because, they're close now and married and everything, Adrian actually talks to him and stuff. It's nice to see. And he ends up with more animals too. He still has the dog. I think he still has the fish. Actually, I don't remember if I saw the fish in there or not. But they got turtles now. I think the turtles like also had kind of funny names. And then throughout the movie, you get to see Apollo as well, and he wants to take the fight seriously and kind of mad at Rocky a bit and saying like, "Oh, I'll fight you anytime, any place." So, Rocky's got that kind of lined up for him. It's just ends up at a point where he decides like, "Okay, I got to do this thing," and when he finally gets like serious towards the end of the movie, but yeah, then oh, I forgot about Polly. Yeah, he notices that Adrian doesn't want Rocky to fight, and Rocky's training is being affected because of that. So then the idiot goes to stress out his pregnant sister, which causes a premature birth, and then she ends up going into a coma. And then this is, I mean, I haven't watched like a ton of movies with Sylvester Stallone. This is the first time in a movie I've seen like a character of his like cry. It's when Rocky's talking to Adrian in the hospital when she's in the coma and tells her like to sleep as long as she wants. The movie gets kind of a bit more like sad and dramatic for a while, where it's like he doesn't leave the hospital and he keeps going. He's either in the hospital or he's in the hospital chapel. But then Mickey is there and he gives this speech that I thought was really well performed the first time he visits Rocky in the chapel about like how he should fight. I just find Mickey a really interesting character, honestly. Where on one hand he kind of like teases Rocky a lot and stuff and like calls him a bum, but at the same time he genuinely wants to help him succeed and supports him in general. Like he knows that Rocky isn't really taking his training seriously and says like, oh, you can decide to like stay in the hospital or you can go back to training. I'll support you either way. And he keeps his word on that because like Rocky, he doesn't want to do any more training until Adrian gets better. And I noticed in all the scenes, because there's like a bit of a montage of Rocky either at the hospital or in the chapel, Mickey is always there, and I thought that was really sweet. And then Adrian finally wakes up, and they both get to see the baby, Rocky and Adrian, because Rocky like refused to see his son until Adrian wakes up, and all he can tell Adrian is like, wow, you made this, like he just loves his wife so much, and I think it's really sweet, honestly. And then it's like when she tells him like, hey, you need to win, then he takes this training seriously, because at that point it's like he doesn't have to worry about Adrian or the baby anymore or anything. What was kind of funny to me with the baby though, I noticed, and I know it's probably like a movie thing with babies, because I noticed it a lot for like movie babies where it's like they're supposedly just born and they'll have like a full head of hair. But I also kind of found it really funny that specifically like the baby in this movie. And again, I don't really know how much time passes, but I'm assuming the coma's probably not long. That when they get to see the baby, it has like a full head of hair. Like I know the baby was premature by 1 month, which isn't that bad or anything, but it's just kind of funny to me because like I'm a preemie actually, not like a bit more of a preemie than like the baby in this movie, like a bit more months for me, but it took me like forever to grow or to be able to like see my parents. I was in like the hospital for a while. So it's kind of interesting watching this kind of weird of like their baby is actually like seems like a pretty big size and has like a full head of hair, and they just like hand the baby to the parents, and I'm like, oh, this just seems like more of a normal baby, I guess. But I mean, the prematurity of like the baby in this movie is supposed to be like it's only like 1 month like early and stuff. Anyway, Rocky, he has his training montage. This training montage is kind of funny to me in that it it goes in a way where it seems like it's going to end, and then the next scene it like cuts to Rocky tucking his son to sleep. And I thought, oh, okay, that's like a nice way to end his training montage, and then he's gonna like go do the fight or something, right? No. He's with his son for like 2 seconds, and then the montage continues. It's really weird. It's like the tone shifts so fast, going from this like very soft lullaby to blaring out the training song "Gonna Fly Now." It like actually kind of startled me at first. Of like, whoa, okay, I guess it's continuing, but just having that, it's like the very soft like lullaby, and it's like a barely long of a scene, and it's like back to they have to have him run and go up the rocky stairs, which it feels even cooler this time around actually. Or at the end of Rocky's training, he's running around town and people are cheering for him, and then there's all of these people. It's like his entire town is following him on his run, and he goes up the rocky stairs and does the pose, and so does everybody else. And I love that at the front of the pack of this group of people, it's all of these kids, especially because there was a part earlier in this movie where Rocky was, I think, playing like baseball or something with like a bunch of neighborhood kids. So I'm assuming it's the same kids, but I thought that was really nice. Like everybody in Philadelphia, because the fight takes place in Philadelphia, which Apollo picks because he wants people in Rocky's hometown to like see him lose and everything. They're like so supportive of Rocky and cheering and everything. I thought it's really neat. But yeah, then the last like pretty much half an hour of the movie is dedicated to the fight. And I love how tense it gets, like the music for it and everything. And Apollo is a tough opponent because he's like taking it seriously this time. He even gets like a little smug at first, and Rocky really does get like kind of beat up and everything. There's this part where there's these close-ups of Rocky getting like punched in slow motion. That was pretty cool. I think it's real tense at the end. I thought it was gonna be like, I assumed that Rocky was probably going to win because this is like the big comeback fight. I thought it was gonna be like he'd punch Apollo and Apollo would be down and not be able to get up. But no, they have it even more tense where they're both on the ground. And this is like during the final, like the 15th round at this point. And the music gets like super tense there too. And Rocky has to get up or Apollo automatically wins because he like won too many rounds already. And like on the final count, Rocky stands up and he wins and stuff. And he looks like hell, like his face, especially around his eyes, is all bloody. I wonder if that'll have a like a consequence in later movies or something. Like Adrian didn't want Rocky to fight in this one because she's worried he's gonna go blind because his eye got kind of messed up in the fight in the first movie. And then in this one, his eye kind of closes a bit because it's all like swollen and stuff. So I don't know, but he's a good person. He's like a good sport. Like even though he wins, he doesn't like brag it in Apollo's face or anything. He actually thanks him for the fight. They seem to be like on good terms. I noticed Apollo tells Rocky like, "Hey, good luck," because he's the new like heavyweight champion of the world and stuff. And the credits music is really good too. The whole soundtrack to this series so far is like great, honestly. But yeah, it's a good movie. I think I still prefer the first one. I wouldn't be surprised if I like continue to feel that way with the sequels. I at least want to watch the third movie. That's where I'm hoping to stop, just because I'm like kind of ready to move on. But yeah, I'm glad I at least watched Rocky 2, because I can definitely say like I'd recommend watching those, as if you're gonna watch them like as close together back to back as possible. I think it makes the stories of both stronger, honestly. All right, thanks for watching.